all of them, in accordance with our preamble, to feel that we live in one indivisible nation. So therefore, Speaker, it breaks our hearts when we see some of these things happening. And we have been told, or if you read the bill, you will see that there is an allocation of 16.8 billion Kenya shillings only, Honorable Speaker. And it's supposed to bring the levels of services to what you enjoy in Mombasa, to what we enjoy here in Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, I have done the math. Let's just start with roads, for instance, as an example. We are told that on average, we spend about between 80 and 150 million shillings to do 1 kilometer of a standard bitumen road that has 2 lanes. 150 million Kenya shillings. So if my math is not very bad, Honorable Speaker, if you did the math, 16.8 billion gets you around a maximum of 110 kilometers of road. If we decided to put the entire equalization fund into one road, it will only be 110 kilometers, Senator Khalwale. Are we really being honest about the implementation of this fund? One of the things I have advocated for, and I am sure that in the next administration, if, for instance, Honorable Speaker, we are lucky enough and Linda Mwananchi forms government, one of the things we want to do, the way there is a schedule about how much money every county receives under devolution, the equitable share. We want 47 counties. We want to see in those 47 counties how much each county receives from the national revenue. Because that is the one thing we are never told. It is possible, Honorable Speaker, that there is accumulation of government expenditure in certain areas because of certain things, and especially because of political expediency. So, Speaker, one of the things I want to promise here is that once we form government as Linda Mwananchi, Mr. Speaker, we will be publishing. Mandera must know how much of the national government resources have been utilized there. When we went to Mandera, Speaker, we complained about the state of the airport there. Speaker, one of the busiest airports in Kenya has no tarmac. And you go to certain counties, I don't want to mention them, but I did mention them in Mandera. There is 2 airports within 5 kilometers of each other. It is just unconscionable. And to prove our point, Speaker, just recently, there was an accident at Mandera Airport. We are waiting for people to die so that we can build an airport in Mandera. Speaker, this issue is a serious issue, and I want us to be honest about it. In fact, one of the things I get asked every day is... Point of information. On what? What?
Senator Sifuna, do you...
Speaker, I don't know if he can tell you what he wants to inform me, because I don't usually like to be, when I'm in the middle of teaching, to be taught myself. But let's hear what he has to say, but briefly.
Yes, Senator Eddy.
Mr. Speaker, Senator Sifuna has alluded to something very important, which I also had talked about, but I need to inform you on something here. Senator Sifuna has alluded on the amount of money on this appropriation bill, which is 16 billion. What I wanted to inform Senator Sifuna is that because this fund is as per a sunset clause, if you go by the math that it is done of 1.5% of the amount of money that we should get from the national government to this fund, Senator Sifuna, this fund has got an entitlement of 79.8 billion. Now, Senator Sifuna, what I wanted to inform you about is that since the last 2 appropriations were done up to date, that will include the 2025-2026, which we are doing today, 62 billion is the outstanding arrears that the national government has not been honored. So that between the time that this fund was founded up to now, there has only been allocation, or rather there has only been an honoring of 13 billion. I think that's information that's important to him to understand that even though we are even trying to get even the 16 billion to be passed now, 13 billion is the only amount that has been given in an entitlement of 79 billion with arrears of 62 billion. So if the 62 could be released with the fight of people like Sifuna, myself, and yourself, Speaker, and all senators here, it could be a very significant amount to equalize Kenya. That money is big, the 62 billion that is already in arrears. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I think, Senator Sifuna, you have been informed sufficiently. Senator Eddy is saying that although we pass the Equalization Fund Act every year, the disbursements from the Treasury are not up to date. There are arrears of 63 billion.
I understand, Speaker, because of the controversy that has been surrounding the fund. In fact, I remember in 2010, I was one of those people who said, this is one of those clauses that should not have a sunset clause, and I will give you the reason. It is not a solid argument, Speaker, to give 20 years to repair damage that has been done over 60 years. The people of northern Kenya and all these other marginalized areas have suffered over 60 years. 20 years from 2010 is supposed to expire in 2030. We need, I think, half of this house and half of the other one to pass an extension of this particular clause. It's unnecessary. Mr. Speaker, I wish, and you know, it's just that I'm not very good in math. Maybe Eddie can help me. I even suspect that these amounts that are being disbursed are not equivalent to 1.5% of all the revenue that we have collected. Because, Speaker, we have a problem, even with the monies for devolution. Because of the National Assembly being slow in approving or passing the Auditor General's reports on our revenue, we are always years back on the base amount that we used to calculate how much money goes to the counties and to funds such as this. So for a period of 60 years, you don't have roads. And then you are being given installments of 12 billion, 16 billion. It will take proper lifetimes. There's people who will die in some of these areas without ever seeing electricity or roads. And I think for me, it is unfair because they continue to be Kenyans and they continue to pay taxes. Mr. Speaker, therefore, I want to support this bill and I want to assure Kenyans that there are good-hearted people out there who had this constitution in mind, because one of the biggest tragedies, I think, is people finding themselves in power and being given a constitution to implement that they didn't believe in, they didn't support, that they actively opposed. There is no way, Honorable Speaker, there is any political will to ensure that you implement some of these things if you, from the onset, did not believe in it. So forget all these stories you hear, Honorable Speaker, about people suddenly discovering Mandera exists, that we need a road from Mandera through Isiolo. Honorable Speaker, there are people who have always known that there is marginalization. They've been part of that system of marginalization. So there's no magic. And that is why, Speaker, I continue to insist that we want in 2027 to have a values conversation. A values conversation. Once you appreciate that a government needs to act fairly, because it is a constitutional imperative of value, that a government must consider equality when they are doing certain things, then you don't need to convince me with your votes to bring roads to Mandera. You don't need to convince me to put Marsabit on the grid, because I am tied and bound by the values in the Constitution that there has to be social justice, Honorable Speaker. So when you see some of these people pushing and saying, oh, Sifuna, how many kilometers of road will you build? Oh, I have built one stadium. How many are you going to build? I have built 30 markets. How many are you going to build? I am telling Kenyans, we want a conversation to return this country on the rail of values. And once those values are in place, Honorable Speaker, everything else falls in place. I thank you.
Senator Khalwale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.